Everybody, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to use stage analysis for your trading to understand where the market is. Everything about stage analysis you'll be able to learn in this video. What I'm going to be doing is walking through and updating a chart in real time with you and processing and walking through how you can do this yourself. So if you have no idea what stage analysis is, this will be the perfect video for you. So first off, what is stage analysis? Well, stage analysis is a way to be able to tell the different stages in a market cycle. So as we know in the market, things go up and then they go choppy and then they drop down and then they go like that and then they go up and then they go choppy and then they go down and then they go like that. And sometimes it goes up, it goes choppy, and then it goes down, goes like that, and then it goes up, and then it goes choppy, and it does the staircase type of motion while going up, and sometimes it just goes down like that. So stage analysis tells us when the different stages, when the different trend is happening, and what are the indicators that we can use to be able to identify where in that process of a market or a stock's life where it is. So to give you a visual example of what that looks like, and this is just one small case of stage analysis. So you can see over here, this is a stage 2 uptrend. Stage 2 uptrend, we have the distribution phase, and then we have the decline phase. Yeah, the decline phase, and then over here, I don't have the example pulled up on this chart, but we have a basing phase. So the basing phase is basically where things are going more flat sideways. So you can see over here, this is an example of the basing phase. So we have our trending phase, and then we went immediately into a decline phase. So instead of having a very clear distribution phase, we went straight into a decline. And then we based, and then we went up. It can be difficult to tell and understand where we are in the market cycle without having our moving averages in place. The moving averages help to orient us on where we are in the market. So the moving averages that we will use are going to be the 20-day EMA, the 50-day SMA, simple moving average, exponential moving average, and then the 200-day simple moving average. And those are the moving averages that we use to ground us on where we are and help us to identify where the different stage transitions are happening. So when you put the moving averages, like you can see, it makes it much easier to tell where we are. And there's some little nuances to be able to identify what stage we're in based on these moving averages, but I'm going to be walking you through there. So let's jump into it. And this is a video that you're probably going to want to watch multiple times just so you can drill it into you. This is not something that I've created. This is based on Stan Weinstein, the originator of stage analysis. He took a lot of his inspiration from the Wyckoff method. If you're not familiar with the Wyckoff method, it's a way to be able to tell different phases in the market cycle, distribution, accumulation, and it can be a little bit complicated, a little bit overwhelming. The nice thing about stage analysis with Stan Weinstein is that it simplifies it using these key moving averages and volume. So there's very few indicators that you need to use. It's not a complex system. You don't have to read a ton of books. There's one book on stage analysis, and that's from Stan Weinstein, How to Profit in Bull and Bear Markets. And this is one of the guiding principles that you would use if you are, let's say, a swing trader, because a swing trader that is buying or selling, buying going long or selling going short, is going to be understanding where we are in the market cycle based on these different stages. So you want to be buying during a stage 2 uptrend. You want to be buying when the market is going up. You want to be buying during this time, and then you're very selective and you downsize and you're very cautious when it's in distribution. And then when it's in a decline, maybe you step out of the market completely if you're not going to be shorting, or this is where you would be shorting. And then when the market is basing, when it's going just sideways and it hasn't found a definitive trend yet, a strong, meaningful trend yet, this is where you'll be waiting for the opportunity for the market to take off, and you would be watching the stocks and seeing which are the stocks that are showing stage 2 uptrends prior to the general indices making this move, because your strongest some of the leading stocks are going to be moving before the indices is able to catch up, and that's how you're able to identify early trend changes based on stocks. So yeah, so that is a summary, a little summary of what stage analysis is. Now, I'm going to be updating the Bitcoin chart because selfishly, I wanted to update my stage analysis on this Coinbase chart. So I'm just going to be walking through me updating the Coinbase chart and talking through how I'm processing the information for you. So Bitcoin is a tradable asset, but it also acts almost as like the indices for the crypto market in general. So what that means is that when Bitcoin is in a stage 2 uptrend, then altcoins, the meme coins, smaller cap cryptocurrencies are going to be performing better and breaking out more. There's going to be more push behind it versus when we're in a decline, things are going to be pulling back, and it's going to be a lot more selective like we are in right now. So first, what are going to be the indicators that we're going to be using? I have a completely blank screen here. So if you're on TradingView, what you would use is, now I'm using this custom indicator. It just basically takes the key moving averages that we use, which is the 20-day, 50-day, and 200-day, and puts it all in one indicator. But if you don't have this indicator, you could find like multiple moving averages. Just look up like multiple moving averages. If I could spell multiple moving averages. And then you could test around and try to find one that has multiple in it. So that way, if you're on a free plan of TradingView, then you only have a certain amount of indicators that you can put on your screen. So you want to try to find one that combines a few. But essentially, what we're doing is you're looking up either exponential moving average. So exponential. I can't spell today. Exponential moving average. And then what you do for, let's say, the 20-day. Let's say I didn't have this one up. You would go here, and then you go to the inputs, and then you put 20. The length is 20. And then the time frame, what you would do is the daily. You can color this whatever. I use blue. And then I like to make the line a little bit thicker. So that would be the 20-day. And then for the simple moving average, you just look up simple moving average, and then you put that there. Go to settings. You do 50, time frame, 1 day, style. I color this one red, make it a little bit bolder. And then you would do another one, which is the simple. Settings, inputs, 200, time frame, 1 day, style, white, and then I like to make this one the thickest. So the way that we read this is the 20-day, this blue line, is the short-term moving average. This is the medium term, the 50-day SMA is the short-term, medium-term moving average, and then this is the long-term moving average. How can we tell? Well, if we look at the trend, we can see which ones are faster, which one is more slower, and which one is the slowest. And the way that these moving averages work is it takes the previous 20 closes, 20 closes on the daily, and then it creates a moving average based on those closes. The same with the 50-day SMA and 200-day SMA. Now, I don't know the difference between exponential versus simple. I think that there's some stretching, some math in there. This is how I was taught. I believe this is also what Stan Weinstein also uses. He talks about the 30 week. So if you're looking up Stan Weinstein, he'll talk about the 30 week or the 40 week. More recently, he's been using the 40 week. Because the market's just it's respecting the 40 week a bit more, so he's been using the 40 week, and the 40 week is essentially just the 200 day. The 30 week is the 150 day. So sometimes you'll hear people interchangeably using these, the 20 day, 50 day, 200 day, or 30 week, 40 week, 50 week. A lot of these are just the different variations of the same name. So this is the first thing that we're going to be doing. And then the second indicator that we need is the volume. So I already have the volume pulled up, but if you don't have the volume pulled up, you just go to indicators, you look at volume, you click on volume, and then what I like to do is I go in to settings, and I like to have the volume moving average turned on. I like to see the moving average line. And this tells you the volume. What the volume tells you is on a particular day or series of days, is the volume increasing or decreasing? So we could see based on the moving average of that volume, is it above the moving average or below? So this tells us, is there increasing volume or decreasing volume? And those are the only indicators that we need, these ones right here, that we need to start doing stage analysis. So you don't need to pay for anything. This is all you need. Now, like I said, this one that I use, this one is a paid one. And I'm going to be using this because it has the labels on it, just to make it easier for everybody to follow along, since sometimes it could take a little while to just start to memorize and truly remember where these moving averages are and what the names are. So I'm going to be keeping this just so we see what the labels are. Actually, I don't think it's going to matter, because when I go back, you're not even going to see the labels. So doesn't really matter. But I'll try to keep reminding you. So remember, 200 day, 50 day, 20 day. All right. So now we're going to go back in time. All the way back to the beginning of this Bitcoin chart. So whenever I am doing stage analysis, first thing is I like to have some different tools open to help me just quickly identify. So the way that I typically do it is, and these are the tools that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the date and range. So you can put that on your favorites here, like that. And we're going to be using, and if you don't have the little favorites bar, just click on this little star right there. We're going to be using this little arrow, so the arrow should already be selected. We're going to use a trend line right there, vertical line right there, and then rectangle. So if you go to brushes, rectangle, and then these are the only ones that we really need for stage analysis. These ones. So the way that I like to do this first is I do a quick rough rectangle, just to tell me, based on what I'm seeing, where do I believe the stage 2 uptrend could be. So if you just look at the chart here, you could see, well, it looks like this is the top, that's the bottom, and they're all above the moving average. So I'm going to call this stage 2. And then we scroll over. So this is where a little bit more of the nuance comes in. If you don't know what you're doing, maybe you go and you say, okay, This is stage 4 because it's going down. Stage 2, stage 4. And then you could say, okay, well, it's going up. So now I'm going to do a stage 2. Now, this is not the actual stage analysis, but what I'm showing you is just a quick reference guide of how you might go about this. Just to kind of you just kind of want to look at the chart and kind of paint a picture. Paint a picture based on those moving averages of where you think things are going. When I look at this, I see this is flat. Things are going flat. Here's the trend line. It's stuck here. So I would say, that looks like a stage 1. I go over here and I say, okay, it looks like the trend is going up. So I'm going to say that this is stage 2. And again, we're going to go in and we're going to paint a pretty picture of what this actually is and where we actually are. All right, now I'm seeing this, it's going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down. So to me, that looks like a clear stage 3. So I'm going to color this yellow. We're going into distribution. So again, we have our accumulation, we have our basing, we have our confirmed trend, we have our basing, we have a confirmed trend, and then we have distribution, or I'm sorry, topping, better term, topping, and then we have over here, looks like distribution because it's going down. And again, I'm just looking at the moving averages, and I'm just saying, based on where the moving averages are, based on how they're respecting it, where does it look like it's going up and down? And then I go over here, and to me, okay, it looks like we broke out, and now we started going up. So I'm going to say that this is stage 2. We're in an uptrend. And now it broke below the 200-day, and now the trend is going down. So I'm going to color this red. Just like that. And just in a couple minutes, just a few minutes, we've already done 90% of the work. 90% of the work. Now, it's just going in with a fine-tooth comb and finding exact moments. And this is where the challenging part comes in, where the interpretation comes in. It's finding the exact moment where the different stage transitions are happening. Because we already painted the picture. I'm not a very good artist. You can ask my wife. She's an artist, and I was drawing the other day, and she said, we were with our kids at the restaurant, and I was drawing, and she says, "Oh wow, it looks like the baby just drew a picture." And I said, "No, that was me." My drawings are that bad. But the artistic point with stage analysis is that we have some simple tools that we can use: our volume, our moving averages, and our trend lines, to be able to tell where the different transitions are. And when you first get started, things might be a little bit messy. Maybe you're not confident. Maybe you don't really know how to be able to read it. But as you do this more and more, as you go through this practice of just identifying the different stages, you will start to become better at identifying what are the indicators of a stage transition. So where you typically want to look for these different stage transitions is where the two stages meet. So if you've painted the majority of the picture, now you can go in with a fine-tooth comb and start to identify, is this actually a stage 3 distribution that was happening? Because typically it's going to be stage 1, 2, 3, 4, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it just goes from stage 2 to stage 4. Sometimes it goes from stage 4 to stage 2. So that's why we start to go in and say, okay, well, maybe there's actually a stage 1 here in this area. Maybe there's actually a stage 3 here in this area. And the reason why we'd want to do that is because that's going to tell us and give us a little bit of headwind of when the next stage is going to follow. So let's go over here to this time frame, and we're looking at this transition period. So the first thing that we can identify is that this is the top. Obviously, this is the top, and then it continues to go down from there. Now, if you're living in this in real time, how would you identify this? Well, that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult, because you're saying things are going up, things are going up. Maybe you're making money, and you're saying this is really, really good. Like I'm making lots of money. I'm making lots of money. Hindsight's 2020, where you could say, okay, well, obviously this is the stage. This is the end of the trend, and now something different is happening. But when you're going through it in real time, how can you actually know? Maybe this area is just like this area. Well, some of the first things that we look for are going to be big volume. I mean, that's big volume right there. How can we tell that that's big volume? Look at the volume. So that volume, a big red volume. The big red volume means that it closed low. It closed lower than before. It closed lower than before, and it was high volume because it went all the way down to the 50 day, and then price tried to pull itself back up. So, to me, that would be the first indicator of, oh, something is not right here. This is where your red flag should be going, warning, warning, there's something bad here. We could even technically put a little flag there if we wanted to. That's what I did before when I was trying to identify, like, what's a red flag. That's a red flag right there. Red flag. So, right here, I would be saying, okay, let's get this out of here, because maybe we don't know where we're at right now. We say, okay, this is a red flag. The volume does not look good there. It respected the 50-day, which is good, but that volume is not healthy. And then it's a few days later, and we're looking, and then we see, it crossed below the 50-day. That's another red flag. Crossing below the 50-day. Another red flag here. Look at the 20-day. The 20-day, it crossed below, and now it's acting as resistance. Over in these times, price, the 20-day was acting as resistance, but then it pulls itself back up. And that's healthy price action in a bull market. You want to have these dips because you get rid of the weak hands and then you continue higher. You get rid of the weak hands and then you continue higher. So, yeah, you should definitely have your red flags and warnings and seeing what is it going to do next. But then, as we can see, price didn't get above. It just keeps going down further and further. Further and further. And this is where you might start drawing some trend lines. So in this area, I would be looking and saying, because over here, here's where it found some support. This was an area of support and resistance. There's the resistance, and then there's the support. So I'd be looking over here and saying, okay, well, this seems to be an important area. And another red flag over here is it closes below the 200-day. The 200-day is the long-term moving average. That is a really bad sign. So right now we have all these red flags. We have all these red flags. And one of the first things that I would probably do is on this day, right here, this is where I'd be throwing up my okay, this is a warning sign to me. To me, this looks like distribution to me. And now I'm looking for now I'm looking for more warning signs. I'm looking for more warning signs. And I'm seeing more red flags. Now, I just want to pull up another indicator that Stan Weinstein does use. It's called the Relative Strength Index, RSI. In crypto, one of the tools that we use, this is a paid tool, but this is the Bitcoin, or this is the pair strength indicator. So this is basically, it's the relative strength, and this is comparing it to the S&P 500. So the way that we use this is for individual coins. This compares the individual coin with the relative strength to Bitcoin. So if you're using the relative strength index, you can also use that. This one I like because it shows us some green dots. It has, it shows us the trend of the relative strength. So one of the things that I would also be looking at with a type of relative strength tool is it topping? Because if it's topping, like over here, we could see these little green dots happening, which is the 52-week highs we could see over here. To me, seeing these, how extended it got, these 52-week highs, and then over here with the volume, to me, I would be thinking, and then you could see that sharp decline. To me, I'm definitely thinking this is distribution. So we have this first indicator here. We have also the relative strength topping, getting very extended, and then topping over here. And then we have a sharp decline over here, and then this extreme volume of distribution. So I'm already thinking now, we're in distribution. We're in distribution. And the signs are not pointing towards a continued trend. And we continue to watch the chart to see what happens. And we start to see the 200-day now acting as resistance over here. So I'm going to draw my line out like this. And this is my horizontal trend line. Now I'm looking at this trend line and saying, okay, well, this is an area of support. Price found and it pulled itself back up. Price found some support over here. But I'm also looking at this right here. Because price obviously did not want to go any lower from here. It pulled itself back up with some pretty high volume, which is strong. But as soon as you start getting below that 200-day, nothing good happens below the 50-day or the 200-day. The 50-day, nothing good happens below it, especially when you get to the 200-day. Nothing good happens below it. So now we're just going to go, and now we're looking, and we saw, okay, it's closing below that trend line. That is not good. And we continue to go. Price is coming back up, but now look, it's finding resistance at the 200-day. To me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, this is obviously right now the trend is not up. Are we in distribution still, or are we in a downtrend? Well, one of the things that Weinstein also likes to look at is breaking below a major support level with high volume. We also want to look for lower lows. So we could see over here, There's the lower low, but then we have a higher low. So right now, to me, this still looks like distribution. But now we're coming up to this key support. And now I'm paying really close attention. Looks like it found some support there. And it looks like I'm going to have to get rid of this this red box here. And now we're getting lower. We're getting lower and lower. So we've come to this key support level again. And also look at the trend here. It's not able to make new highs. So you could argue maybe the stage 4 distribution actually happened over here, because again, we can also see the high volume closes below the 50-day. So again, this is where some more of that art comes in of how are you going to read this? Are you going to update your evaluation of where we are? You know, as soon as I started, because I was so focused on down here that I wasn't paying attention to, oh yeah, well, I mean, we're going lower. I mean, just look at that trend line. It's going down. We break below the 200-day. Sure, it's not going down, but this is clearly a downtrend. So the way that we could read this right now might look something a little bit better like this. This was the distribution that was happening. This was the key distribution day. It was unable to make new highs. It lost the 50-day with high volume, two high volume down days. The 20-day starts acting as resistance. Now the 50-day is acting as resistance, breaking below the 200-day. 50 days still acting as resistance. Everything's pointing down. This is a downtrend. We can see price getting really, really tight here. I mean, if I was trading this, I'd be looking and saying, I mean, maybe this is the bottom right there. Maybe this is the bottom, because it's obviously found some support here. It's not going any lower. So maybe I could buy it right here because it's getting really, really tight. I mean, look at that volume over there. The volume just dries up and it forms this really tight range right over here. So you could say maybe, okay, well, maybe the bottom was here. Maybe this is the bottom. Could this be a stage 1 basing? I mean, it's not going any lower. It's formed this range. Maybe that could be our stage 1 basing, because it's found support. But we have that key level there. And then, what do you know? It breaks below. Now we know, okay, this is definitely not stage 1 basing. This is a continued downtrend. And it just continues. And it continues. All right. Now we can see some more indicators here. We see those reversal extensions forming. So the reversal extension is where volume spikes down, it gets bought back up, but then it shoots back down, gets bought back up, shoots back down. So where is the bottom? People are bottom fishing, trying to come in, finding a bottom. We can see the relative strength. And again, I'm just showing this to you for representation. You don't need this tool. You don't need it. You can just use your volume. But this helps to paint, add some more confluence to what we're seeing. And we could see multiple bottoming action. And then we start to find now we broke above the 20-day, and we start oscillating around the 20-day and the 50-day. So to me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, I'm seeing people coming in and buying the bottom here. It's showing back up. Maybe it could keep going lower, but now this is showing to me some potential action of people accumulating, the accumulation phase. The accumulation phase is stage 1, basing, accumulation, people coming in and saying, okay, I want to buy this. It was up to 20,000 not too long ago, a year ago, and now it's in the 3,000s. I guess they're saying, well, that's a pretty good deal. And then we can start to see the trends start to change. The moving averages, the medium and short term, start getting respected. And this is where we start drawing our trend lines. We could see a clear range. This is the high. That was the low. And we could see that it is going higher. We have this flat top, horizontal resistance, and we could see prices starting to respect the moving averages, and it's going, and then it breaks out. To me, this is the first indicator of a stage 2, which we'd also call a stage 2A. 2A is the early trend. And we can see that price starts to follow this uptrend. And it starts respecting the 20, the 50, and it's well above the 200. And then looking at this, we see the trend, and then we see, again, this high volume. To me, this is a warning sign. This high volume close like that, that's a warning sign. So I'm going, uh-oh, what's going on? I mean, that volume picked up like crazy, but now there's some really high volume on the downside. So now I'm putting up my warning sign. Is this distribution? Now I'm going to draw a trend line. I'm drawing a trend line from here, and I'm saying, okay, that was the top. Are we going to be able to break out above it and continue the uptrend? But now we're seeing the 20-day going sideways, the 50-day starting to cut below it. I see another bottom right here. That's where I want to draw my trend line. Things are not looking good. To me, this trend is really weak. And then just like that, yeah. I mean, this is this red day right here. To me, this looks like it's going down. It doesn't break high volume below the 200-day, but I mean, just look at this trend. This is going down. So, is this a stage 4, or is this still stage 3? Again, this is where you can start to bring this up to interpretation. Was there a high volume close below the 200-day? No. Like over here, we said this is probably most likely the start of the stage 4, but it was above the 200-day. So one of the simple rules that you say is, oh, well, if price is below the 200-day, then that's a stage 4. But there's a little bit more nuance to where we could say the stage 4 is starting. And if we're looking at this area over here, there could be a little bit more nuance to it. Is this really the stage 4 decline right there? Is this where we're starting into a stage 4? Or is this still a topping phase? You know, we can change our opinions as we get more data. That's fine. Nobody says we have to be 100% correct right away. But to me, this is a warning sign. So I'm going to put my little warning box right here, and I'm saying, okay, that doesn't look healthy. And now I'm watching. And I'm saying, okay, if this continues to break down further, and we start to see some real clear downtrend with some high volume, and it just keeps on going lower, yeah, I'd say that we're in a stage 4. We have high volume, but then look, we have some high volume coming in, and now we're back above the 200-day, and then we start to close below it. That trend line's still there. And now we're continuing to go lower. So maybe we want to change this and say, okay, I mean, this looks like it's starting to, this looks like that red day right over there. Yeah, I mean, this is looking stage 4-ish to me. But now I'm noticing that the trend is starting to turn. Is it gonna come back down? Now it's just kind of going sideways. And look at that. I mean, that's a pretty big indicator right there. So what happened? Price wasn't able to break above the previous high, gets rejected, shoots back down, and it bottoms. Now we're looking over here. Is the trend going to change? Are we going to keep going lower? I see some high volume coming in over here. To me, that's an indicator of, okay, well, maybe the trend is going back up. So I'm just gonna flag that of an area of interest. And I want to see where the trend is changing, or if it does change. But until price action shows me otherwise, I'm going to continue to be bearish. Now I'm starting to see the trend moving up higher. It bottomed here. Now it's going up. Maybe this is the stage 1A. Price is continuing to climb higher. We're not making those same lows anymore. I'm looking at this horizontal line. We're coming back up to the horizontal. Gets rejected. To me, this looks like it's wanting to make a move out. Now I'm looking for volume. I want to see some high volume coming out above this horizontal, and that would make me think, okay, maybe we're entering into that stage 2. It's respecting the 20-day. It's above the 50-day. It's above the 200-day. This is good, but it gets rejected. Right there. High volume, break above. To me, this is an indicator of maybe this is the stage 2A. Now we're seeing, is it going to hold? There wasn't a lot of follow through. So that's a little concerning to me. And it broke below the horizontal again. So maybe that wasn't the trend. Maybe the trend wasn't ready there. But now price is coming back up. It comes up again above the horizontal. Now it's above the moving averages. So, and we could see again over here. Let's look at the where the trend is going. We could see the trend is going up. So maybe this is just an early stage 2 uptrend. Maybe this is just an early stage 2 uptrend. I feel like I'm like Bob Ross, walking you through, painting those pretty trees and the mountains. Oh, look at that. We could see relative strength is increasing. We see the volume increasing. We see a break of the horizontal trend line. We see the moving averages getting respected. We see higher highs forming. And now we're going up. We're going up. Stage 2. This is a little worrisome right there. So I'd flag that. I'll color that yellow. Warning. That's some high volume right there. But looks like price wants to continue maybe going up higher. But then it breaks down. And we see it's coming down to the 50 day. Is it going to respect the 50-day? And continue higher? Yeah, it respects the 50-day. So maybe this was just a little blip, a little spot in the general uptrend. But we just keep going higher. Now what I'm starting to see is, it's definitely slowing down, this trend. It's not going as high as anymore. The volume is dropping. The volume's not like what it was over here. The 50-day, and why is that important? Because the 50-day is catching up now. Look how extended it was from the 50-day before. Look how extended it was from the 200-day. Now things are starting to catch up. That's a little worrying. So I want to watch these areas. Like over here. And look at that. Touches down to our trend line. Breaks below the trend line and closes. So I'm flagging this. Another distribution event. I don't like that. I don't like what that looks like. Again, close below the horizontal. The trend is definitely weakening. And here we go. A red, big high volume close. This is the highest volume that we've had. Below the 200-day. And now the 20-day is acting as resistance. But then look what happens. It just starts to change the trend. This is strange. Very quickly, it looks like it found a double bottom, comes back up, gets rejected, but then it wants to continue up higher. So now I'm looking at this and saying, well, I mean, now that it's respecting the short-term moving averages, it's coming up to the 200-day. Is the trend changed? Could this be a stage 2? Early stage 2 uptrend? I mean, that's kind of high volume there, and it's coming back down. That's a little worrisome. Maybe that's some distribution that's happening. Is it going to respect? Is it going to respect the moving average and continue on higher? I mean, yeah, I mean, it comes back down, but then it comes right back up. But now it's coming back down to the 50. So again, I'm starting to get worried. So was this just a little momentary rally trying to make its way back up? I mean, from here to here, that's 128%. I mean, goes up to 60,000 again. But then price is starting to act funny. It's giving me some warning signs. We're getting some increasing volume. Price is going below the 50-day. This is not good. Closes below. Heavy volume, another flag. And then we lose this support. To me, this is warning, get out of here. This is not a healthy trend. And then price drops below, but comes back up. And then it gets rejected. Looks like it's trying to make its way back up. But it's getting rejected at the 200-day. I'm drawing my trend line to see, are we going to go below this trend line here? And then we have some high volume closes below that support, confirming it's going down. We're getting rejected by the 20-day. The short-term moving averages, the 20-day. And then over here, it starts to, looks like it's found some bottoming. Potentially. This is a reversal extension. We could see price just dropping. Looks like it's getting a little bit higher. So I'm paying attention. Comes back to the 50. Looks like we might be changing the trend. We broke out above the 50. Comes back down. Now we're above the 20-day. Could this be... Could that have been the bottom right over here? I mean, I'm looking at the trend over here, and it's looking pretty good. Uh-oh. But that's not good. We're breaking below. Is it going to continue? Found some support, maybe, on our horizontal. Doesn't seem like it's going any lower. That's not good. Broke below. Some high volume, but looks like buyers came back in. I'm watching this area now. I'm saying, are we going to go lower than this line? Is the trend going to continue down? Or is this the bottom? We see the 50-day and the 20-day, the 200-day starting to catch up. This white line. Now this is pretty meaningful. The 200-day has caught up. We see the volume increasing volume. It's breaking above the 200-day. So I'm starting to think, is this a trend change? It's up 30% in just a few days. Is that the trend change? Is this the early stage 2 uptrend? I'm seeing the volume. It broke out above this range. Now it's respecting. But it's kind of, it's coming back in. So maybe we were a little preemptive. But now it's finding support on the 200-day. And it's continuing to go higher. So this might have just been early in the uptrend. And now it's above the 200-day. That's a little concerning. I'm looking at this and saying red flags. Breaks below the 200-day. But it does find support on our horizontal. And it broke out of this area, some high volume. If we look at the relative strength here, relative strength shoots back up, and this is positive. This is positive signs of an uptrend. With that relative strength increasing, volume increasing, it breaks out of this level above the horizontal resistance with significant volume. I mean, that trend, to me, this is a trend that wants to keep going higher. Am I shorting during this time? No. Because the trend wants to go higher. So now it's breaking below the 50-day. And again, we're watching. See the 200-day starting to catch up a little bit. So now I'm just cautiously optimistic. Now the 200 days caught up. Now it's below the 200-day. That was some pretty big volume that came in, but price tried to pull itself back up to the 200-day, and then it successfully pulls itself above again with volume. But now, look at that. That's scary. I'm flagging this. Because I don't like that. But it was able to pull itself back up. So it was a extreme high volume, maybe some distribution. Maybe people are thinking here, hey, doesn't seem like we're going much higher. We found this resistance at 72. That doesn't, to me, that's not good. So I'm going to take my profit now that it seems like the trend is dying. It's finding resistance at the 200-day. But now it's above the 200-day again. And we're starting to increase that volume. So maybe this was just a little distribution. And we want to go higher. Well, how do we know? Well, I'm just going to be watching this horizontal. See if we break out above with some volume. And we do. Right there. So now I'm saying, okay, it seems like the trend wants to go higher. And maybe this wasn't a distribution after all. I mean, maybe it was a little distribution sideways action in the general uptrend. And this is 3 months. I mean, not a strong trend. Definitely not a strong trend. Finding some resistance over here. I mean, that's not a good sign. The trend looks to be slowed down. And I'm also looking to see is there signs of distribution happening? I mean, maybe over here. Crosses below the 20. It's not able to break out above with new highs. See increasing selling volume coming in. Buyers are trying to step in, but it can't break out above. Again, these are not good indicators. Comes down to the 200-day. And now we're also looking and saying, okay, is now this looks like this is a distribution stage 3. When are we going to go to stage 2 again, or are we going to go back to a stage 4? It's finding resistance at the 200-day, but it breaks out above. All the moving averages converged right there. We saw some high volume coming in. So I'm flagging this of an area of potential trend change. And if we scale this a bit more, and now we're going higher. But this is a little concerning. It's not able to break out above the previous high. This is now acting as some resistance. but price breaks out above. The trend looks like it wants to continue. That's a pretty significant sell. High distribution day. It's a lot of volume. That's a little concerning. I'll flag it. Now, looking in hindsight, hindsight's 2020, of course. This was difficult for me to know in real time because it was a high volume distribution, but it was well above the 20-day. The trend seemed like it was strong. It wanted to break out. But we can also see another high distribution day right here. That's not 2 high distribution days like that. That's not good. And then the buying volume did not come in to support that. Over here, whenever there's high distribution, there's usually some type of equal high accumulation that's happening. But nobody came in to support that. That's concerning. But it does find support on the rising 50-day. So what gives? Is this just distribution? Now we're looking and seeing, is it going to break out above this area? And one of the other things that we can see right over here is the wick. Now we're starting to look at the candles because this is strange. High distribution. Not a lot of follow through. And we can also see price tried to break out really high, but it got pulled back in and then it shoots back down. To me, those aren't good signs. So I'd be worried. Price tries to break out again, so maybe it's gonna break out, but it gets rejected very quickly. Price finds support on the 50-day, but now it's chopping around sideways. It's going up. We see increasing volume. Looks like it's trying to break out. Is this going to be the new trend change? Is it going to continue higher? Three pretty significant high volume. I mean, just from over here to over here, that was 16%. I mean, that to me, that seems pretty strong. But it finds, looks like it's, as we're going through this in real time, or as you're going through this in real time, you're thinking, oh, well, maybe the trend is going higher. We're reaching new all-time highs. But then we have this day, and that's not good. That is definitely not good. Just shoots back down, gets rejected. Just like that. I don't like the look of that. And then we see the 200-day. So now my red flags are going. I'm saying, okay, this is not good. Is this potentially a stage 4 decline? See price trying to come back up. It gets rejected at the 50-day. And then it continues to shoot back down. Shooting back down. Shooting back down. Dropping. We're below the 200-day. Below the 200-day, getting rejected at the 20. Tries to rally up and break out. But it gets rejected again. So could this have been the bottom? We see a reversal extension right here. We see the moving averages catching up. Maybe this is the stage 1 1A. Maybe this is the bottom. Starting to turn up. Maybe it finds support. Maybe it continues going like that. We raise our horizontal line. Maybe it's just going to go into this channel. But we're still in the stage 4. So until price proves otherwise, we just have to continue on. And lo and behold, it continues to break down. To where we are today. So hopefully me walking through in real time, and you can go back and now you can see the whole journey that we went through and how we painted this picture of stage analysis. Now, as you're going through and you do this multiple times, maybe you see something that I didn't see. Maybe you identify the stage 1 basing a little bit earlier. Maybe you start the stage 4 distribution later. Maybe you see the topping indicators sooner than I do. That's kind of the art to stage analysis is it's open to interpretation, and things can change. Maybe this was not a stage 3, and maybe this was actually just stage 2. Maybe stage 3 happened over here during this. I mean, looking at that, there was a lot of distribution that was happening in this area. So maybe I'll just go in and I'll say, okay, yeah, I mean, this really to me looks more like this is where it was distributing, this whole area. Looking at the volume a little bit wider paints a better picture sometimes. Sometimes you look at a piece of art and you look at it a different way, and then you have a different way of looking at it. Maybe you stand off to the side. Maybe you place it in a different environment and it looks different. That's why also what you're listening to, the news, fundamentals, other analysts, that can influence how you paint your picture. I know, firsthand, I was thinking over here, we're still going to be in an uptrend. I did not paint my picture like this until I started experiencing it. I started studying stage analysis in this time frame, right over here. And I saw us go down. And during this time, I was also saying this is probably a stage 4 distribution. There's talks about war, tariffs, all of these things. So, the things that you're consuming, the things that you're listening to, that can also influence. Maybe we draw our line here and we see the increasing volume on the down days, and we say this is actually the stage 4. We're going lower. Like that. It was lower, lower, lower. And then also looking at the market. Where was the market at during this time? I mean, the market was bottoming. The market was in a stage 4. If we go over to the SPY, the market was going like this, And then it was going like this. And what did Bitcoin do during the same time from February to April 9th? Bitcoin did that. So sometimes, again, like I said, you look at something else and that might change how you interpret this. I was walking through in real time with you as I'm analyzing the historicals of the chart, and it becomes even more difficult when you're going through it real time. But you start looking at the finer tooth comb details, and you start to see, is this going to play out? And sometimes you have to change your thesis. Maybe you were wrong, and that's okay. But if you stay and say we're in a stage 2 uptrend, and you're listening to things that are confirming your biases, confirming your beliefs, and you say we're in a stage 2 uptrend, we're in a stage 2 uptrend, I don't believe it. Alt season's gonna come, the alt super cycle. I'm gonna make my money. Right now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. And look at what happened. I mean, you were getting chopped up. It was declining. And because of things that you were believing, this is going to influence how you interpret the price action. So trying to strip your biases and come in without any biases, just reading the chart, trying not to be influenced by different analysts or by the news or what your friends say or how much other people are making. And just try to be as objective as possible. Maybe take a step back. Maybe you need to look at, another chart. Maybe you start marking up other charts in stage analysis and you start saying, okay, well, there's some confluence there. You look at the SPY and you say, okay, yeah, here's the uptrend. Now, maybe you could continue to say, well, we're in an uptrend. We're in an uptrend. This is still stage 2. But again, just look at some of the signs. Look at some of the signs of that could indicate where the market is going. And maybe you don't see it. Maybe you don't see it just in this context. Maybe you don't see it. But if you look at something else, let's say the QQQ, maybe it paints a little bit better of a picture. This is another indices, similar to the SPY, but just more tech focused, major indices. And then you look at this and you say, oh yeah, I mean, there's clearly a trend change happening. It's not able to make out that new high. To me, this looks like distribution. On the SPY, maybe you could argue that we're still going higher. There's a good argument there. It's still going higher. It's hasn't closed below the 50-day. It's not below the 200-day. But then you look at something else and you say, this doesn't look right. And then maybe you go back to the SPY and you say, maybe I need to update this. Maybe you look at the volume again and you start saying, yeah, I mean, something about this date doesn't look right. Something about this trend line and how it's kind of trending up doesn't look right. Something about Bitcoin doesn't look right. And then you start to paint your picture. And maybe you paint it a little bit different. Maybe you start adding some new trend lines. Maybe you start looking at some new potential areas. Maybe you add in some new moving averages. to help paint a better picture. Again, you don't want to get too crazy, because when you start adding in these, and then you start adding in all these new indicators and visible range profiles, and things start becoming a jumbled mess, and now you've got indicators galore, and things start to get crazy. But if you strip all of that away, and this is just you're going in and you're painting a picture. But the core, and even like me adding in the relative strength, that's helping to fine, with a fine brush, painting a picture. But for stage analysis, all you need are the 200-day, the 50-day, and the 20-day, your support and resistance lines, your volume, and a opinion that is stripped of biases of a particular way. I know a lot of people, like for Bitcoin, for example, they believe in the four-year cycle theory, and that influence how they see things playing out. Or they look at the global liquidity trend, and they follow analysts that talk about global liquidity, and they say, well, global liquidity is going up, so the money printers are about to turn on, the interest rates are going to go up, so this has to be the stage 2 uptrend. The market looks like it's primed and ready to go up. And again, that can influence how you view the market, how you view the chart, how you read the chart, how you paint it. But like you saw in this example, I didn't need to know what was going on with Bitcoin. I didn't need to know the news. I didn't need to know about the NFTs. I didn't need to know about this. I didn't need to know about any of these things. All I needed to do was to read the chart, look at what the price action was doing, and that could tell me where we were in the trend. There's a saying that the chart tells all. News follows the chart. The chart is going to be the quickest way, the most immediate way for you to be able to tell what the market's doing. So yeah, that is a little masterclass on stage analysis. I hope that helps. And now I have updated my chart, which is what I wanted to do. So kill two birds with one stone, as they say. Help to teach you, and I get to use this one, the Coinbase chart, for stage analysis. Because previously I was using the Bitstamp chart, and the Bitstamp chart, the reason why I was using this before was because it has more price history. It goes back further than the Coinbase chart. But Bitstamp is not as used as much as the Coinbase chart now. So the volume is going to be a little bit more accurate on the Coinbase chart than the Bitstamp chart for up-to-date for the modern. But if you go back pre-2017, the Bitstamp chart is more accurate. So that's why I wanted to update this one. So if you like this type of content, subscribe or don't. I've got more studies that I want to do in the future, and I like talking about stage analysis. And yeah, so talk with you all in the next video.